Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Friday, January 24th, 2025. That makes this the news for Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, day 1065 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5, coming to you live from Kyiv, Ukraine, this major European capital currently under siege. And I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, super user. Hey, Darlene. How you doing? Hey, Bobby. Aiden, how you doing? Hey, Debbie. Hi, Robert. Grotland. Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Hey, G2. Effin' hell. Best handle on the tickety-tock. Hey, Simon. Brian Kornbaugh is here. Hey, Brian. Hey, Eli. How you doing? Hello, peeps. Hey, Chef Deb. Yeah, I said I was going to go out to dinner. I never left the house. I never did. Cold here in West North Carolina. No, I just stayed inside and cooked and ate and... What did I watch? I watched a movie that I hadn't seen before. The Martian. Oh, no worries, Chef Deb. Hey, Daryl Roberts. All right. Hey, Nightshade. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, and other non-binary folks, how do you do? Let's get started. It was a bad night last night. No two ways about it. Air Defense did their usual great job with the drones, knocking about 90 of the 92 that they sent in out. However, the missiles got through, and in Zaporizhia, it was bad. 4 Iskanders targeted something. I've seen a couple different reports. It's somewhere between 7 and 11 apartment complexes and residential homes. By the grace of God, only one person is unalived in Zaporizhia. But another 50 are wounded. 22 are hospitalized, including a 2-month-old baby. And the death toll is expected to rise. And that was not the only place hit. In Konstantinivka, another person was unalived and 8 were injured following last night's missile attack. So the missiles, these fast-moving Iskanders, when everybody's busy with the drones, they get through. They get through. The Russians have been having great success with them this week. You need a Patriot for them. And there's only, officially we don't know how many Patriots there are in the country. We really don't. I think it's somewhere between 5 and 7. And that is not enough to cover this whole country. Hey, Robbo. So there are lots of places that don't have Patriot coverage where the opportunistic strike by an Iskander can really hurt. So the folks in Zaporizhia are suffering. Zaporizhia's getting hit like a punching bag these days. There is thought that the Russians are trying to step it up. They're trying to soften the target, Zaporizhia city, for an offensive. Now, the ISW is saying that the Russians don't have the men for it. That's what the ISW says. But there's a lot of scuttlebutt about an offensive on Zaporizhia. Well, Robert, there just aren't enough missile batteries. There aren't nearly enough. This is a country the size of Texas, nearly. And I think to cover the whole country, you would need 17 Patriot batteries. To the best of my knowledge, Nightshade, the only thing that comes close to the Patriot is the new Gravehawk that they've just gotten. That's the only thing, as I understand it. Now, you can say the S-300, the S-400, but Ukraine doesn't have any S-400s. And I don't know that how many S-300s they have operational, if They must have some. They must have some. But I don't know how many. This is an interesting bit of news. Israel, who has been slow, hey, Dan Ballard, who has been slow to assist Ukraine, right? It's got a long and complicated relationship with Russia, and it has been slow to assist Ukraine. Well, Israel today offered to transfer to Ukraine, hey, Michael, all of the Russian-made weapons that it's captured from Hezbollah. And of course, the Russian-made weapons are familiar to the Ukrainians. And apparently 60% of the weapons captured from Hezbollah are of Russian manufacture. So these include Dragunov sniper rifles, SPG-9 launchers, Coronet anti-tank missiles, and one Coronet E portable launcher. The representative of Ukraine and the representative of Israel sat down and had a long conversation about their shared challenges, both with Russia and a Russia-backed Iran, and their concerns around the growing economic and military cooperation between these aggressor states. Hey, Mel. Especially in light of last Friday's signing of the bilateral security agreement, the Mutual Defense Pact, between the two nations. The big thing that the Ukrainians are worried about coming out of that Mutual Defense Pact, of course, are Iranian troops on the ground in Ukraine. We're already getting word that the North Koreans are planning to send more troops. Hey, Phils. This next group of troops are expected within the next 60 days and will be comprised mostly of gunnery and rocket artillery units. Now, that is despite the fact that Pyongyang has already lost KIA or WIA, fully 1/3 of the 12,000 troops that it originally sent. The estimates are between 3.8 and 4.2 thousand. Troops are already off the battlefield, KIA or WIA. That's a third. According to the ISW, if the casualties continue at this rate, they will have lost the entire 12,000 by mid-April at the latest. Now, this is all according to the New York Times quoting Pentagon sources, and it was confirmed separately in a press release from General Budanov's office today. According to Budanov, and according to the Pentagon sources, the North Koreans are planning to send 187 Koksun self-propelled guns, right? That's those 152 millimeter self-propelled guns. I think it's 152. I'd have to check, honestly. No, it's 170, isn't it? It's 170 millimeter. Yeah, they use their own rounds. At least 150 KN-23 ballistic missiles, which are basically Iskander missiles, right? Those missiles that came in last night, they might have been Russian-made Iskanders. They might have been Korean-made KN-23s. They're basically the same thing. They're also sending artillery shells and systems, and the system that they are sending is apparently the 122 millimeter MLRS system that we saw unveiled in Pyongyang back in 2023. This is the rocket launch system that's disguised as a civilian truck, right? The roof opens up and the missile launchers come right out of the roof. Now, I remember 2 years ago when they unveiled these things, all of the experts were saying the same thing. This is the most stupid thing you could possibly do, is put a weapon system inside what looks like a civilian truck. Because invariably what is going to happen is your enemy, being unable to tell which truck is the weapon, is going to start hitting civilian targets. Hey, Fitz. And that is of real concern. So Again, the new troops coming in within the next 2 months are artillery and rocket engineers and teams. They're going to be running this hardware, which is now in Kursk. We got a picture of it geolocated in Kursk today, these civilian-looking trucks. I'll tell you, nothing says that your 3-day special military operation is going according to plan like having to use North Korean troops and their weapons to teach your guys how to use their weapons. Evening, Birdie. Now, this next story, I cannot stress to you enough how much respect and admiration I have for the partisans working behind the lines. Can you imagine being a Ukrainian, being shanghaied into the Russian army in the occupied territories, and then turning to be a double agent, to be loyal to Ukraine and to feed Ukraine the information that's going to save Ukrainian lives and help win this war, and risk your own life every single day doing it. That's where this next story comes from. This story comes to us from an Atesh partisan who is embedded in the Russian army. Everybody thinks he's a Russian who's fighting for Russia. No, he's not. He is embedded in the 64th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, we believe, in Zaporizhia. And he reports that back on January 14th, a Russian soldier fragged his commanding officer and injured a sergeant in the attack. Now, the outcome, did the kid flee? Is he AWOL? We don't know. We don't know what happened to him. The report is about tension in the ranks and about increased levels of potential mutiny. Now, remember, this is the Southern Military District. The Southern Military District has seen, we believe, as many as 18,000 men desert. Desertions are high. The service conditions in this brigade in particular are said to be unbearable. Torture, intimidation, theft of your salary. The commanders insist that you bribe them with your salary and your sign-on bonus so that they don't send you on suicide missions. That's the state of the Russian army. When these guys are going to wake up and turn their weapons on their real enemies like this guy did, I can't say. But one cannot imagine that it will not eventually happen, just like it did in 1917. Now, on the front line, a Russian plane dropped a Fab 500 in occupied Makiyivka. This was 2 days ago on January 21st. This is in Donetsk. This is occupied Donetsk. Now, in 2025 alone, the Russians so far have dropped 7 Fab, these are the glide bombs, right? Fab 250 or 500s on their own Russian territory or on the occupied territories. They've also hit themselves with 1 missile. Now, at this rate of only 8 hits in the first month, they are trailing far behind their self-inflicted wound rate of 2024. In 2024, 165 of these bombs landed on their own territory. In Pokrovsk, we saw some movement on the front line. The front line is deadlocked, right? There's very little movement. The only movement we've seen really in the last week was the Ukrainians taking back Makhnovka in Kursk. Now the Ukrainians have taken back Kotlin, which is just southwest of Pokrovsk, so helping to push the Russians back from that Pokrovsk offensive. They sent a large mechanized attack and retook the town. The word is that the Russians there were disorganized, exhausted, and many of them wounded. This Pokrovsk advance may be coming to a culmination point. It just might be coming. It's cost them so much. You wonder how anybody survives it. And you know as well as I do, these guys will never be right again, right? If they survive this slaughter, climbing over mountains of their own dead to get to the next position, they will not be right. Curiously, in Kursk, Russia is doing something unusual. They are rolling out triple-stranded barbed wire. So, this is razor wire, and you don't just roll out one bale of it, you roll out three, one after another. So it creates a real impediment for foot troops. And foot troops are really all that can move right now without a solid road because it has been so warm. I'm looking at the weather for the next week. It's going to be nearly 50 here in Kyiv on Tuesday. What is that? Like 10 or something Celsius? 5 Celsius. No, 10 Celsius, something like that. It's warm. The ground is not solid. You can't run a 70-ton tank over this mushy ground. You need a road for it. And so everybody is stuck on foot right now. Now, the fact that the Russians are rolling out this barbed wire, why? Like, why? This is a defensive strategy. They're rolling it out in Kursk. And now that the 21st deadline to remove the Ukrainians from Russia has come and gone, maybe they're preparing defensive emplacements. They're preparing to fight this defensively and maybe get the Ukrainians out of Kursk as part of a negotiated settlement. Rather than keep throwing troops into the meat grinder, might be a good idea. Now, we don't know. We don't know what happened. We don't have the Ukrainians taking credit for this. But there is a warehouse in Moscow near the Klin Air Base and military base that is home to the 97 specialized, the 92nd Separate Special Purpose Helicopter Squadron. These guys run Mi-8 and Mi-24 gunships. And the fire has said to have consumed the warehouse that belongs to this helicopter squadron. No word on it being a drone strike. No word on it being partisan activity. Nobody's taking credit for it. The officials are saying that it was an electrical fault. Right? How many times? I'll tell you, I would never hire an electrician from Moscow. No, I would not. Ukraine's prosecutor general's office has opened a new case after videos surfaced of 6 Ukrainian POWs in Donetsk being summarily executed. Hey, Lawrence. This habit of the Russians committing war crimes and then posting the video online like it's their daughter's birthday party or some shit. The posting of the videos led directly to the assault, capture, and neutralization of 5 guys who had committed some executions like this recently up around Seversk, right? The Special Operations Forces went in, they found the guys, they pulled them out, 3 of them survived, and they're awaiting trial for war crimes. The same thing is going to happen to Oleg Yakovlev. Oleg Yakovlev, call sign Sarah, has been identified from the video as the murderer, as the executioner. So we already know, right, or we have a high degree of confidence that this is the person who did it. And special operations forces are going to have a hard on for this guy. Oh, yes, they are. Especially, so this guy is in the 30th Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian Federation, and he stands accused of atrocities before this in Avdiivka and in Orekeshny. So, I mean, if I was going to commit crimes, I'd want to get away with it. I wouldn't videotape myself and put myself online like it was entertainment for the world. There is something what is wrong in Russia and with these Russians that they do this shit? Do they think that they are invulnerable? Do they think that they have nothing to live for anyway? They're not going to live much longer anyway. They're going to do whatever cruelty they can exert on their fellow human beings, they're going to do it because there is no one to stop them. The NATO Supreme Allied Commander, speaking at Davos, confirmed what we've heard from the ISW, that he does not believe in his military assessment that the Russians have the manpower to exploit a breakthrough should they make it. Thanks, laddie. He goes on to say there is a reason why they have brought thousands and thousands of North Koreans to the front. And that is a fair assessment, in my opinion. Also speaking at Davos, Zelensky called on the U.S. to provide peacekeepers. This should be Trump's victory, not Putin's. Now, Zelensky has also said, thanks, Messi. Zelensky has also said that they're going to need 200,000 peacekeepers. Lots of folks are saying that that is not accurate. That Zelensky is aiming high in order to get something that will actually work, to make sure that he gets enough. The assessment from a number of foreign military analysts is that 40 to 50,000 peacekeepers should be able to do the job. Now, we shall see. But you know as well as I do, well, you know what my opinion on this is. Russia's never going to go for it. There is no world in which Russia is going to allow NATO troops on its border like that. It's not going to happen. Or American troops. No, it's not. It's not going to happen. However, there is some good news in the nightmare that is Donald Trump. He does seem to have realized that he has Putin by the balls, that Putin is in a very fragile position. His economy is brittle, and Trump has become aware that he can wreck it. So we gave him a lot of ATACMS. They got ATACMS, and they have permission to use them in Russia. So he is threatening taxes, tariffs, and sanctions. Now, look, sanctions I'm all in favor of. Tariffs are a bad idea, especially with Russia. We don't do any business with Russia. Right now, we're importing about $300 million from Russia a year. $300 million. I mean, that's a joke. Walmart did $235 billion last year. So billion. Right? That's the difference here. Walmart, one retailer, to our total international trade with Russia right now of $300 million. I'm with you, Hardly. I do not disagree. There's a little trouble in paradise among the bricksters. I think somebody should be looking for our Brexit. China has stopped buying Russian coal, turning instead, I'm with you, Eli, 300 too much. Turning instead to Mongolia and Australia to provide for their coal needs. So China, one of Russia's biggest buyers of coal, has turned away from China for its coal. It's an economic decision. Russian coal is more expensive. Here's a decision forced by the sanctions. India's biggest state oil company has stopped buying Russian oil. You're talking about 2 million barrels a day that don't have a buyer anymore between Russia and China backing off of Russian oil. 2 million barrel a day surplus for the Russians. Now, of course, they're going to need it to refill all those tanks that the Ukrainians have burned to the ground. But yeah, it's good news for everybody. Syria, okay, so this is the most amazing thing. So yesterday, as I mentioned last night, oh no, we didn't do a live last night. I took the night off. Syria, yesterday, announced that it was canceling the 49-year lease on the Tartus port, right? And the Khamenei air base. So Russia's out of Syria. Then, as a goodwill gesture, I guess, in light of this bad news, hey, Renvox, whatchamacallit, so then, as like, in light of the bad news that they were canceling the contract, they finally let the Sparta 1 and the Sparta 2 into the port. They let them dock. Now, those cargo ships are there to pick up all the shit that Russia left behind, right? That's what they're there for. The only thing is, the Sparta 2 already had some cargo. Its top deck was full of brand new Chinese SUVs and pickup trucks. I think the brand is MG. The Syrians confiscated them, called it a docking fee, and took every one of those brand new trucks right off the boat and is keeping them for themselves. Incredible. Just absolutely incredible. They fucked them on the lease, kept their ships circling out at sea for 3 weeks, and when they finally let them in, treated them like pirates and stripped them of their cargo. Not only that, apparently what happened during the flight of the soldiery was that a number of Russian bases were surrounded by rebel forces. And the soldiers were allowed to leave, but not take the equipment. So all the Russian armor, billions of dollars worth of Russian armor, is now in the hands of the Syrian army. Aiden, that's beautiful. And you get an SUV. And you get an SUV. And here's a pickup truck for you. Love it. Love it. Now, this is game changer. Well, now it's army, right, Lawrence? 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, they were rebels. Now they're the army. This is what happens. Now, Magyar from Magyar Birds, who is the famous drone squadron, right, that has punished the Russians so badly. Magyar from Magyar's Birds made a video showing off a 41-kilometer spool of fiber optic cable. Now, you guys understand, right? What he can do with this cable is he plugs it into a drone and now controls the drone through the cable, and that makes that drone unjammable. Can't be jammed. It's not sending out radio waves that can be fucked with. It's hardwired through the fiber cable. So these fiber cables, Magyar's Birds is spooling up 41 kilometers of them. I want to say every kilometer of cable is 250 grams. So every 4 miles is 1 kilogram of cable that the bird is dragging behind it, right? Which I guess is how they came up with a 41 kilometer spool as their maximum distance. That's a little over, that's 10.25 kilos in weight of the fiber optic cable that you have to make some accommodation for. This may explain, or something like it may explain, how 41 miles behind the line, the Russians lost a Tor thermobaric missile system this week. That's a $25 missile system. $25 million, sorry. $25 million missile system. Then they lost a Book M3 35 kilometers from the front line in the Tourette's direction. Hey, Mike Berry. Mike, no, you're not. There's lots of Berries. You're not a relative of Emily's. I know that. So, it's not that long ago. Russia will win. Oh, you're funny. You can stay. You let that person stay. They're funny. Whatchamacallit? I forget what I was going to say. That was too funny. Oh, here you go. Here's how Russia's winning, right? Wait, what did Bobby say? Bobby, Trump doesn't have to do anything to get the Saudis to increase oil production. They've already said they're going to. Gosh, nearly before the election. Like I want to say 3 months ago, October, Saudi Arabia announced that it was rescinding its production decreases, that it was going to start pumping out another 1 million barrels of oil a day. That production must be there by now. That's one of the things I think that's encouraging the Ukrainians to bomb more oil infrastructure and oil facility, because they know that the Saudis and all the OPEC nations are increasing their oil production. And so the Ukrainians can hit whatever they want in Russia. They could start hitting the export terminals. The U.S. is still the #1 producer in the world, yes. They could start hitting the export terminals, which would affect how much oil and refined oil products Russia could actually export. And that would have an effect on the world price, no doubt about it. But given that Saudi Arabia is about to put another 1 million barrels a day on the market, does it make sense not to hit those things and bankrupt Russia? I think it does. You know what you're going to see from Trump? Trump is in the pocket of the oil and gas industry, right? They gave him $1 billion to help him get elected. Well, American liquefied natural gas, shale gas, is a big deal. America has quadrupled its production of natural gas in the last 20 years, and it needs more customers to keep that price up. Trump is going to be pushing for LNG sales to Europe. And Europe should stop taking gas out of the Turk Stream pipeline and buy American LNG. The more they buy, the cheaper it'll be. It's getting interesting. Where have you been for the last 3 years? This is the most interesting thing that's ever happened in my life. The Russian economy is as brittle as, the teeth of somebody with scurvy. It's brittle. Now, here's how Russia is winning their troll, wherever you went. Russia continues to have artillery shell quality problems. The shells are coming in. They're not packed consistently with the right amount of charge. And so what happens, right? Like your shells, as I understand it, have to be perfect clones of one another. They have to be exactly this much, bored the right way for the barrel they're going in. Then, when you send the first one out, you can adjust, and the next one will go right where you tell it to go. But that's no good if the next charge has 5 grams less of powder in it. It's not going to go the same place as the last charge, no matter what you do. So Russian artillerists, are you ready for this? What they have to do? They are weighing each shell and grouping them by weight to try to improve accuracy. This is no way to run a war, that's for sure. No way at all. Now, Igor Girkin, who is an ultra-nationalist, he is not one of the good guys, right? He is the worst kind of person there is. But he is or was very competent. And so, naturally, after Putin used him to get the Donbass, he locked him up and jailed him as a threat. He keeps sneaking messages out for Telegram from his jail cell. Today's was really something. Hey, Truthful. Hey, Richard Prexis. Was really something. In a candid critique of the special military operation, he called it a complete failure, listing specifically how it had failed to attain every one of its goals, not in 3 days, but in 3 years. Massive, massive failure for Igor Girkin. To hear Girkin criticize the Russian government in such a clear, concise, and accurate fashion, knowing he's sitting in jail for his part of it, really gives me very confusing emotions, because I agree with the guy. I absolutely love what he's saying, and I absolutely detest who he is and how he thinks it could have been better. Hey, Rydell, because for him, it would have been better if they just went in and unalived everybody. That's what he wants. That's what he wanted. Like I said, not one of the good guys. And how long he's going to be able to keep sneaking messages like this out of jail is anybody's guess. Now, Russian State Duma, member of parliament, right, in Russia. This is the most amazing thing I have read the entire war. A member of the Russian State Duma put out a statement addressed to the people of the European Union, saying that they should become friends with Russia quickly, reset their relationship with Russia immediately, if they want Russia to save them from the aggressive Ukrainian army that is coming to destroy them. I swear to God, this is what the guy said. I mean, it is hard to find people that are more far removed from reality. I will not make a sexist joke here. Than Russians without talking to women. Okay, I'm sorry, I made the joke. Yeah, Russians and women, they do tend to make a lot of shit up in their own heads, don't they? No offense, ladies, but you know you do. Okay. That's it for me. On the Hey Hardly. So that's it for me. Thanks, Douglas. Big D, I'll tell you, the propaganda in Russia used to be really good before Prigozhin. These days it's not as good, or it's even better. Because there's some propaganda, boy, I'll tell you, I read it and I'm like, wait a minute, that's really good. But for the most part, the bot farms are in the toilet. They just screwed the Ghana bot farm for 4 months worth of back payments. So then they had to run to South Africa and hire a new bot farm, right? Which they're not going to pay. If the Ghanans didn't get paid, why would the South Africans get paid, right? Was it, Robert? Thank you, sir. I sure do appreciate it. Do you think the population of Belarus will riot if Lukashenko wins the election again? Andrew, I think that Lukashenko winning is a foregone conclusion, and I don't think that the people of Belarus are going to think anything else. I think that they've sort of accepted their fate for the time being. Thanks, Michael. Russians definitely believe that there are NATO soldiers in Ukraine, yes. They're told it on the news all the time. They are told it on the news all the time. They are told that NATO soldiers are being captured. French soldiers are being eliminated. Italian soldiers have been captured. I mean, the list goes on and on of these just either perversions of the truth, because legitimately, there's the International Legion, and there are all kinds of people in the International Legion, but they are not NATO troops. If there were NATO troops on the ground here, this war would have been over. This war would be over. Yeah, Nightshade, I think Nightshade hits it on the head. When the Putin regime and the current Kremlin collapses, Belarus might just be able to escape Lukashenko and this so-called Union State nightmare that the Russians are trying to subsume Belarus into. What do I think Trump meant by Putin can do this the easy way or the hard way? Trump is offering to hand Putin virtually everything he wants. Now, what country am I from? I'll give you 3 guesses. The first 2 don't count. Putin is still asking for his maximalist gain, his maximalist wish list. That is never going to happen. Trump, I guess, has come to the realization that that is never going to happen. And because Trump can't give Putin what he wants without appearing to be a lapdog puppet of the Putin regime, and given the fact that Trump seems to have realized how weak the Russian position is, that Trump's got him over a barrel if he wants to have him there, that he has been quite cordial in his stupid way. I love the people of Russia. I don't want to hurt Russia. I mean, really childish things to say. But he said them. And then he said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And the hard way is sanctions, tariffs, and taxes. And we'll break your economy. And we will, too. Look at the U.S. since this, in the last 5 years, can anybody tell me by what dollar figure has the U.S. economy grown, the GDP? Does anybody know? Does anybody have a guess what the U.S. GDP has gone up in the last 5 years? It's $5 trillion with a T dollars. $5 trillion from about 19 trillion to about 24 trillion a year is our GDP. Does anybody know what the size of the Russian economy is? The Russian economy is only about $2 trillion. That means that America has grown its economy 2.5 Russias in the last 5 years. Garagilly, you're absolutely right. They are running out of armor because the assaults in Kursk are all on foot. And it's not just the assaults on Kursk. You pay $10,000 for a pencil. Well, you're getting ripped off, James. Mike, you might have a point there. Trump just made $42 billion. He just increased his net worth by 10 times with that crypto bullshit scam he's running. So, well, on paper anyway, right? We'll see if he gets to cash it out. He never did with the Truth Social money, that's for sure. That money disappeared. Renvox, I have not heard, as far as I know, the 3 North Koreans are still on the lam. They are still on the lam. And you know, Eli, the more that they make fun of Donald Trump on Russian state TV, the less likely he is to cooperate with them. He's got a very thin skin. He will not like that. Now, well, hold on, Dark Irish. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, user telephone number here says you can't profit from the office. Isn't that a law? It is a law. It's part of the highest law of the land in the United States. It's written, it's the emoluments clause of the Constitution. And it's why every presidential candidate for history has disclosed their finances and tax returns, and why their personal fortunes are put into trusts when they take over the Oval Office, because you are not supposed to profit from the presidency. Well, Trump is still doing it. I mean, he didn't do it the first time. He's not doing it this time. We still haven't seen the bastard's taxes. We still don't know well, we do know what foreign governments he's into for. So no, he is a walking, talking, unconstitutional event, Donald Trump. And I don't know when we are going to get our shit together and make him pay for it. Now, Dark Irish says, wait till you hear about Russia's crutches brigades. Now, here's the thing, Fitz. It is very likely that, yes, the Russians are sending wounded soldiers on assaults. They don't care about human life. They are desperate for bodies to throw into the meat grinder. They are sending everybody they can. There are lots of videos of wounded soldiers appealing to Putin, of all people, to save them because they are facing this horrible end. However, it is important to recognize that not all of those videos are real or true, or they are manipulated. So, for example, there was video of 2 guys on crutches, and everybody was saying, oh, it's in Tourette's, they're making an attack, yada, yada. They weren't on crutches. The guys are using sticks to cross open fields to try to feel out landmines, right? They put the stick down, then they step where they put the stick, hoping to only lose a few fingers rather than their foot. In the one video, which I saw cut up all over the internet, all claiming to be crutches brigades. In the one video, I watched the whole video. A drone is taking the video. The 2 guys with the crutches become aware that there is a drone. They drop their crutches and run. So, while I'm sure it is happening, I'm not certain that it's quite as broad or as endemic as some of the people would lead you to believe. I am not in Russia. I'm in Kyiv, Ukraine. Hey, Estonia. Ladies and gentlemen, may I give you Tiger H1 from Estonia? And I say this with respect, pride, and joy in my voice to have somebody from Estonia here. Because by GDP, by percentage of GDP, no one has done more for Ukraine than Estonia. Far and above as a percentage of GDP than the United States. So the Estonian people are, I think, understand the danger of Russia more than most of us. And they put their money where their mouth is. And as a resident of Kyiv, as someone who has benefited from that support, I would thank you personally on behalf of myself and other Americans here. And then kind of tertiarily from the Ukrainians who I talk to and who I know appreciate Estonia greatly. I'm not saying it's not happening, Maddie. It is definitely happening. I'm just saying you got to be careful watching some of the more sensationalized reporting out there, if you will. Right, my job here, or my self-appointed job, the job I've given to myself, and why I came to Ukraine, was to understand Russian disinformation and how to combat it. Because I believe that it is Russian disinformation that has poisoned, deeply, deeply poisoned the well of our political discourse in the United States. Did you get your pants? What is that about? I don't know what that's about. They better keep them Russian ships away from UK, or Antony is going to get his big boy pants on. I was in Lviv one time, yes, for a day. I was in Lviv one time for a day. Musk can never be president because he is not an American. He is not a native-born American. I was looking for clothes. Oh, I was looking for clothes, and my dear friend Daniel Ballard got them to me from my storage locker in San Diego. I don't really have the money to be shopping right now. I'm kind of living on a tight budget. If you would like to help with that, please consider joining the Patreon or becoming a sponsor of a live. The PayPal is in the description. My live sponsor tonight, I'm so sorry I didn't mention, is Leo Ring, but I didn't see Leo here. Is Leo here? So big thanks to Leo Ring and James Boudreau, who are the sponsors of tonight's live. Again, if you would like to sponsor live, the PayPal is in the description. Or if you like what I do and you want to support it, right? This channel exists for 3 reasons. To disambiguate Russian disinformation, to keep Ukraine front and center in people's minds and in the news, and to serve as a place where other people that want to do something positive in Ukraine can meet and maybe work on projects together. We do little projects on this channel. So if you're such a those are the only reasons to be here. Because you're interested in seeing through Russian disinformation, because you believe that Ukraine is the defender against an aggressor nation, and you want to help Ukraine. Those are the only reasons to be here. If you are here for any other reason, I would like you to please leave. It is not about me. It is about what is happening here. Kaplow. Thank you, Mattis. I really appreciate that. It's that kind of positive feedback that keeps me going, because this is not easy to do. And on the Patreon, and I don't just do this live at 5 here on TikTok. I do a morning news wrap up for the Patreon folks every morning. So the people who follow me on Patreon get the latest and greatest news first thing in the morning in their inbox. And then the wrap up of the day on the live at 5. Want me to give you positive feedback? No, Fitz, because it'll probably, what would you call an electric shock? It would be shocking, right? That's the only kind of positive feedback I expect from you is through an amplifier. I wouldn't mind being a Klingon. I like Klingons. Although it'd be awesome to be a Jedi. Star Wars meets Star Trek. Jedi Klingon. Ooh. Hey, Arn. How you doing, pal? So again, big thanks to Leo Ring and James Boudreau, who are the sponsors of tonight's live. We got about 4 minutes left, guys, if anybody's got anything. Otherwise, I think I'm going to hit the hay. It's 1 a.m. here. Nook Nay. Dude, is that Klingon? I don't really know Klingon. Well, David, you are correct. Now, David Keller, he's a Patreon supporter at the Sea Babies level. And so every month I record a video and give him a shout out. I did yours today, David. I don't know if you saw it. I think I did it today or yesterday. Major attack from Ukraine on Russia tonight. Yes. I don't know anything about it, Red Dog. I haven't heard a word yet. But if that's the case, we'll be talking about it on the news we are waking up to tomorrow. That's for sure. Nightshade is there. Nightshade has a Facebook group that acts as kind of a news aggregator for Ukraine news and for happenings on this channel. And it's the Peter's Peeps public group on Facebook. So if you're on the Book of Faces, take a look at Nightshade's group there. And I hop on there sometimes too. Hey, Brendan Hoy. How you doing, buddy? Manda Rose is here. Manda Rose was one of the very first people I met when I first came on to TikTok. And she's an American with a great outlook on the political situation in the U.S. for any Americans that are interested in keeping up on the insanity that is going to be this administration. Thanks, Laddie. Thanks, Aiden. So we are just wrapping up. I want to thank everybody for being here with me tonight. I want to thank the moderators. I want to thank Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and Lars, who has the Discord server. All right, kids. Thanks so much. Make it a great day.